Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kind of hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarasinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarasinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. With elections caucusing their way into the community near you.
You said cock.
I know, that was what you got it, yes.
Yep.
Into your local community. We're looking at our top 5 political movies.
And that is, of course, if you are local to the United States. If you are one of our listeners from another nation, we apologize for just wiping over all countries with the same brush, Robert.
But at the same time, the U.S. is the center of the universe.
Okay, sure.
So,
I mean, granting that.
Which you probably will.
A dark
will
hole.
Or you may or may not see in my top 5 political movies. I had the
you
same
will
problem.
not see it in mine. So.
I had the same issue as we did last week with, what was it, movies about the 70s. The fact that the 70s existed outside of the United States was hard for me to grapple with.
Sure.
But before we get to that, we've been, it is election season.
It is election season. This tomorrow, as if you're listening to this the first day it's published, tomorrow will be election day in these United States. We encourage all of you who are eligible to vote to do so. Take your part in the grand facade of American democracy.
Unless you're voting counter to what I'm planning to vote,
yes.
then stay home.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
stay home. But if you're planning on voting,
I early voted. I already got out
voted
there.
too.
Did you? Yeah,
I did.
I got out there.
Yeah, I didn't recognize most of the names on the ballot other than Scott Walker, so I figured, okay, well, I guess I'll vote for him.
Sure. Yeah, obviously, yeah. He's really good.
I mean,
and
if I know his name, I must know it for a good reason.
Yeah, and if you're first, I figure if you're first, there's a reason for that.
Right. It's like the best horse always goes first in the race.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Just.
So we're all done.
Nota bene did not vote for Scott Walker. I want to make it super clear. I actually know about politics.
We all voted early because I did an absentee ballot. I'm going to be traveling. You voted early, Karen?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to be traveling as well. We'll have to talk about that later.
You'll have to figure out. I'm not taking care of your children.
That's right.
So I'm also traveling.
But we've also made time during this busy season to be watching a couple movies. Let's jump into our worth mentioning segment. What is a worth mentioning segment of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which are the ones we want to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them either way. Care, how many movies did you squeeze in since last week?
I got in 2 this week. I got in Beautiful Boy, which was one of my most anticipated of the fall.
I also got that in because of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome there. And then I also caught The French Connection by Patreon request from Julian DeBerry.
Very nice. Tim, what else have you been seeing?
I've seen a lot. I don't actually have the number in front of me, and Carrie also tried to shame me on Letterboxd about not counting movies I had already seen.
She's like, I saw Suspiria twice.
I watched Suspiria twice.
In the same day.
The old Suspiria.
You watched it twice in one day?
I watched it twice in one day. Once in Italian, once in English. I needed to compare them.
Okay.
Was one better?
I slept in between.
Did you count both of them on your Letterboxd?
I only counted it as one Letterboxd.
Okay.
Because I fell asleep the first time sort of on
my
purpose.
Guilt. Yeah.
So I saw a lot of movies.
Was one better than the other?
The English is marginally better, but it's actually pretty close.
Okay.
But I think when you guys watch it, you should watch it in English.
I watched it in English. All right.
So what have you seen? What do you want to bring to the table?
Well, I will say I have seen the remake of Suspiria as well as the original Suspiria, and I'm very excited that you guys have to see it because you're going to hate it.
Both of them.
And you're going to hate both of them, but you're I think going to hate the new one more, is my guess. And I feel good about that because of what Carrie so recently did to me. So I feel like about it's fair play.
That's right.
But what I'm actually going to bring to the table is a film that's new to Netflix this weekend. Also on my most anticipated list, as was Suspiria. But that is the 1976 film that has finally been completed and released as a 2018 film, Orson Welles' The Other Side of the Wind, which is a movie that he started shooting in 1970, finished shooting in 76, didn't come anywhere close to finishing the edit. There's a whole storied history about it. There's a documentary on Netflix that sort of gets into that history, but the film itself is basically what happens at a party where a Hollywood filmmaker played by John Huston, whose name is Jake Hannaford, shows some of the footage from his incomplete film called The Other Side of the Wind. So it's an incomplete film by Orson Welles about an incomplete film by a character who is this sort of amalgamation of Orson Welles and John Huston and Ernest Hemingway and Michelangelo Antonioni and all sorts of weird shit.
So meta.
It is a movie about how movies can't be made functionally. It's basically a film that's trying to destroy the language of cinema just through this like sort of perverse act of hate. Like, it's a very bitter, sour movie. You guys are gonna chew it up and love it.
Should you just put us down for the half star now?
I think at least one of you might give it a 1 star, and I'm gonna wait for that to maybe boost up my averages.
I haven't actually seen your letterbox on this, but just exactly the way you're describing it, I'm predicting you gave it 4.5 stars.
I didn't give it any stars yet because I need to...
You're noodling on it?
I need to ponder whether it's even meaningful to give this film star ratings.
It's that meta.
Exactly. I keep a spreadsheet of all of our most anticipated to see who wins. I did give it 5 on that spreadsheet because I think it is unimprovable from the thing that it is.
That's what I gave Beautiful Boy too.
I saw your letterbox.
Yeah,
and
I know
you did not.
I know. I wouldn't cheat.
But yeah, no. So Other Side of the Wind is very aggressive, very challenging, needs to be seen many times, I'd say, to really get a sense of it. The film that exists is probably not fair to call Orson Welles' film because it was finished by other people. The story itself, large parts of it were directed by his partner, Oya Kodar. Really amazing, just like collapse of movie into like this sort of incoherent mass. And I think you guys are going to love it because I know you love incoherent, non-narrative stories.
Totally. You're selling us.
Available for streaming?
Available for streaming on Netflix.
There's nothing stopping us, Kara.
A handful of screenings.
Other than good decision-making skills.
By this point, it's too late, but it was playing in Chicago on 35mm the weekend past, so hopefully you saw it there if you're a Chicagoite.
Okay.
And Kara, which of the 2 movies that you've seen are you wanting to talk about?
Because I picked Beautiful Boy, I think I should probably do that one. It's out there today in theater. I was out there.
It's been out there a while.
Week in theaters.
I think today is actually the day it's like sort of going quasi-wide though.
Okay.
Or this weekend.
So when I got to the theater yesterday to see it, I was looking for to take a picture of the outside panel.
Yep.
Whatever that is. Marquee. And so I was looking to do that, and I couldn't find it. And I realized amidst all of the lit up ones, this particular marquee was not. And it was like in the corner, and it was very dark. It was, which was foreshadowing.
It was dark, exactly, yeah.
So let me tell you a little bit about it. This is written and directed by Felix van Groningen.
I don't know.
Okay, you're not going to challenge me on that. It's based on a pair of memoirs by David and Nick Sheff. So this has Steve Carell in it, Timothy Chalamet, and Maura Tierney's in this, who you might know from ER.
I know her from News Radio.
Okay, that one too?
Yeah, News Radio ER. That's
okay. So this is the biography of Nick and David Sheff, and it follows the story of this little boy who's just super cute.
He's a beautiful boy.
He's so beautiful. He actually is pretty beautiful. And his family, and it sort of tells his life back and forth of his path with self-medicating and substance abuse, the relapse and recovery, and sort of the long, bumpy journey to like get to a better place. So I'm going to start with what I liked about the movie.
All right. It shouldn't be a terribly long conversation.
A few words here. I like that it showed a different perspective on drug abuse. So the kid in here has a really healthy relationship in a lot of ways with his family.
Drugs.
And with his family. I know. They look like they're actually kind of fun. I mean, the way they depicted it.
Okay.
It didn't end well.
I'm reminded of that moment in Trainspotting where Ewan McGregor's character says, "Of course we fucking like heroin. If it wasn't fun, we wouldn't fucking do it."
Yeah, it's like that.
That's you can kind of get a sense of that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Kind of.
So Tim and I both have really addictive personalities. I've never tried any of these things, but I'm certain I would be a drug addict, I'm sure, if I did. So avoid all drugs, never do that. But anyway, it's a good representation of the empathy you feel and sort of this tug for this kid, because he actually is a really sweet, good kid.
And the story, like, it's not really about, it's not the kid's story, it's really the story of the dad, like, trying to determine what is the exact level of responsibility he has in this, and what is the exact level of work he can do on his son's behalf. And like that's kind of
how far do you go?
Like how far can you go?
And he goes real far.
He wants to go all the way, and I think the movie's argument is actually he can't and therefore shouldn't.
Yeah. And that part of it I liked. The downside to it, 2 hours, 20 minutes. Really, really long, really, really slow.
It's only 2 hours.
Oh, really?
It feels like it's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I was looking at my watch like an hour and 15 in.
It's the 20 minutes of previews.
Oh, that's
which were easily the best part of my screening.
It was long and
it's
a little
long-ass movie.
slow.
Slow,
And because there was no
Very
real
depressing.
drama, like it's depressing. I mean, there's drama, but there wasn't like major conflict.
No.
So it's like, it was just.
Yeah, I don't remember tearing up. They do interesting things with edits to where I got lost a little bit on the time. Because
Yes, I did too.
Sometimes they're representing Chalamet with another actor, a younger actor, and sometimes
Yes.
they're not, but it's supposed to be Chalamet earlier, and it's like, I have no
I had
idea.
trouble,
Are
too.
we,
Yeah, the
where are we?
chronology is really, I admire what they thought they were getting away with. They don't get away with it. I
agree.
actually also cried at the editing, but for probably different reasons. Very, very muddled sense of chronology. It's meant to evoke like from the present what Steve Carell's character is feeling about the past. I don't think it gets there.
I completely agree.
I also think that Chalamet is not good in it, and I think Carell is actively bad in it.
Oh, see, I thought they were actually both really good.
No, I'm somewhere in the middle.
I liked
it's fine.
Chalamet. I thought he was good.
It's fine. I had just trouble with the way it was thrown together, and some of the dialogue bits were just. It just didn't.
Oh man!
Hit me. It just didn't
Oh
hit
man!
me.
Don't
oh,
say
man.
it. Don't say
oh,
it.
man!
What is
in
it?
the opening scene? Really fucking bad opening scene. It's out of focus. It's wobbly. The sound is fuzzy.
Sometimes you like that.
But when it's on purpose, and this
Okay,
wasn't on purpose.
okay.
And there's a line to the effect of like, my son is addicted to all sorts of drugs, but I think crystal meth is the worst. And that's just like, that's such a fucking like primitive pre-verbal line of dialogue.
Yeah.
I hated this movie. You guys.
Oh.
I actually hated it.
I gave it a pass. I mean, it's fine. Like probably 2.5, 3 stars for me. It's just it's like
It was
whatever. I'll forget
fine.
about it. Like, it
Don't
doesn't-
race to theaters to see it for sure.
No, absolutely not.
Once it's free,
Once it's
think
free,
about it.
you probably still have a better way to spend 2 hours of your life.
So yeah, that was
Could
Beautiful
yourself
Boy.
do some crystal meth and probably have a better time.
Yeah.
Don't
to be
recommend
honest,
it, though.
Don't recommend
one of the
that.
previews there, Lucas Hedges. Maybe
Boy is back.
I'm
is
already
back.
worried about
Ben is
that.
back. But no, but that looks
I
like
think it's
maybe
gonna be
the
a better version.
Better version.
Oh,
of,
sorry, I was thought
of this.
Boy Erased was in my preview.
Boy Erased also, but not.
I'm
Drug
not feeling
addiction.
good about that. Not
Oh,
feeling
Boy
good about
Erased is
that.
in yours?
It's in my top anticipated.
anticipated.
Okay.
And the preview
But
didn't look
I think
great.
Ben is back will be a better version of this. Of this
I
movie.
concur. I think in part because who's the mother in Ben is
Julie
Back? Julie
Roberts.
Roberts.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
going to be good.
And yeah, so
So sorry. Well, not that great.
Thank
Well,
you.
we also had
I'm
the-
just excited that in the next few days you'll be seeing both The Other Side of the Wind and The New Suspiria, and that will be my payback
Oh, good.
for
good.
you making
I
me see
appreciate
Beautiful Boy.
your retribution.
Well, we were also gifted a movie from Patreon Julian DeBerry, a 5 Oscar-winning movie from 1971, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, The French Connection. Which if you've been listening to this podcast before, or you know anything about my viewing experience, anything pre-1980, I have probably not seen. So
Yeah, but this is. I feel like this is one of the ones that you would like cotton to.
yes,
Like, this
well,
would be
we've
one
got
that you would dig.
we've got Gene Hackman and Roy Schneider as a pair of New York City cops who stumble upon a drug smuggling ring that's tied somehow back to France.
France. It has a
connected to
French
France. It
connection.
has a French connection. I've always wondered what the title has to do with anything.
It refers to where the drugs are coming in via France.
All
basically.
makes sense. Director William Friedkin, who brought us The Exorcist, and then what other movie would you say, other than The French Connection, would you throw on the list? Because I'm looking at this list of Blue Chips, Bug, Killer Joe, The Hunted. Like I can't think of something else that's more recent that people might.
I mean,
be like,
that's
oh yeah, great director.
Friedkin's career has sort of tailed off, as a lot of 70s directors have. I would say the films that sort of feel of a piece with French Connection to me would probably include To Live and Die in L.A., which is a wonderful 1985 crime thriller. And I haven't seen it, but I would be curious to compare this to The Brink's Job.
So here's the challenge for me with this movie, because I've been exposed to so many movies 80s since that are probably inspired by
Sure.
a lot of what William Friedkin did here in The French Connection with Gene Hackman's character.
Papa Doyle.
I've seen Popeye Doyle's character done in trope fashion in movies since. The handheld style, the erratic, nature of the movie, the car chase scenes. The problem is I have trouble separating myself from the movies that I've seen since that have probably been based on this movie and have been inspired by this movie. So it was tough for me to kind of get in the mind space of, remember, this was the first time that
original.
anybody did anything like this.
And the best time.
And the best time.
Remains the best, has not been improved upon.
That was the hardest part for me.
You're breaking my heart, Robert.
I know. I gave it, what, 3 stars? 2.5?
I don't know.
I think I gave maybe 2. Maybe I haven't
Oh, you
logged
maybe
it yet.
gave it 2.5.
You should know.
I maybe give it.
You should know.
I just have trouble with older films to put myself
Did
in
you
that
already
mind
say what it
space.
was about?
It's
Okay.
about drugs.
Oh, yeah.
It's about drugs and
It
car
was so
chases.
fast because that's really all it was. Like
That's
for
really
me,
all it is.
it starts off
It's a
and
racist
it's like
cop
there's
going through New York City, which that's another reason why it's tough to watch this. It doesn't hold up from that
But
perspective.
it doesn't condone his racism.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's right.
He is vilified for that too. And
Yeah, like Popeye Doyle is not. He's an anti-hero. He's not a hero.
I agree. But then it felt like a 100-minute chase scene to me.
Yeah, I saw your Letterboxd review, Carrie, which I liked because it was basically. We have to find the drugs 100 minutes later, the end was your review. And I feel like you and I could have written precisely the same Letterboxd review.
See,
and you
we're
gave
on
it
the same
2
page.
stars, and I would give it 5.
There was no connection to it. You didn't really care about
There
the
was
outcome.
a French connection. I'm just.
I know.
So,
Yeah, I don't know.
No, the car chase scenes.
We're good.
I don't know. I still struggle to understand how they filmed it, 'cause especially now. We just
Sidecar.
lived through-
illegally.
Yeah.
They
That's
were
what I
straight up
understand,
in
right?
New York traffic.
Yeah, I don't, and with a cameraman right beside the driver, I don't know how they orchestrated this without anybody getting killed.
They
during
don't
the
know
filming.
either. If you listen to like making of stories, they're all kind of dazzled that no one died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible to see on the screen. The problem is I've seen it since in less jumbly ways, and it's hard for me to take a step back and appreciate this. I lack film appreciation skills.
Rob likes more realistic gore too. Like so they shoot and then it looks like ketchup squirted on their face.
That's very true.
And Rob's like,
Oh, you're gonna love Suspiria. I take it back.
The acting,
I
Hackman
know.
and Schneider are doing a good job, but some of the fight sequences in particular where they have confrontations, like the staging of those fight scenes are awful by today's standards.
So here's the thing. French Connection is an early 70s film in New York. So I love this movie. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's one of the great 70s films. The thing you need to keep in mind is that this is a moment when there was like this new push towards like a really grainy, gritty urban realism in US filmmaking. And I think that's what it's really getting at. It's like, this is New York. These are New Yorkers. This is like a grimy, ugly story told in a very ugly visual style. I mean, it's like a beautiful, ugly visual style, but it's like, it looks like hell. And I think it's supposed to. And I think like some of the like crummy fighting is like, I mean, if 2 guys like that get into a fight, it's going to look ugly. It's not going to be beautifully choreographed. It's not, I mean, and I think that's sort of what the film is getting at, is this is sort of like.
So what you're saying is when you're like in a group fight, people don't come at you one at a time?
I'm saying that.
Oh,
I'm saying
weird.
that, and also there aren't like celery isn't being snapped every time you punch one of the other people in the face. So I'm saying like that's what I love about it, is like it is such a like Popeye Doyle is sort of this dumpy, awful dude, and it's kind of a dumpy movie to go along with it. And that's what I love about it. Is it really does. It's an action film, but it's an action film that very much comes out of this new Hollywood moment where everyone was like, let's see what we can do with urban grit and grime.
Well, Julian, we appreciate the request.
I love your movie, Julian.
Don't
Thank you
give
for
up
making
on
me
us.
watch it.
It was bad. It wasn't bad.
Julian owes us, or not owes us, Julian has in store for us North by Northwest, which I have not caught up with.
I'm
I
excited.
think-
If you guys
I think
don't
that's
like
gonna
North
be
by
the one.
Northwest, I think we might need to pull the plugs. I don't know if I'll be able to cope with that. That's one of my all-time favorite
I'm really
movies.
excited about that one.
I have high hopes for anything Hitchcock. So remember, you can find more details about
said
all the
cock
movies.
again.
I did 2 times in one episode. Remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. You can get early access to exclusive content, make us watch a movie, pick your own episode topic, and more from our Patreon site, just like Julian DeBerry did. We also have a new Patreon subscriber, Liz Norris, who joined us.
Liz.
Thank you, Liz, for your contribution. And I know we've had a little bit of a hiatus on the video front. We're waiting for some
we
big-
sort of were like, hey, who wants to watch a video about Hunter Killer? And the answer came back empty and void.
So we're gonna wait till some of the more
What's up next?
notorious movies. What's the
next big box office film is going to be The Grinch.
Okay, we will be doing The Grinch. We'll take the girls. Maybe we'll get them on some
Get
feedback
them on
from them
video?
on the spot.
Yeah.
Have they seen the original, the 66 cartoon?
No, they just saw the Jim Carrey version.
You're bad parents.
Yeah, it was.
Is
was not
it?
ideal.
Would the 66 one be okay for them to see?
Oh,
the
very
cartoon.
much so. I was certainly younger than they were. I was 4 or 5 when I saw it. It's
I think
25
they've
minutes
seen
long.
that.
Maybe they've seen it. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And in the meantime,
The 2000 is so bad.
Tim, how's your sack?
How is my sack, Carrie?
Carrie's it full?
Let me reach into your sack
it a
and see
heavy-
if there's anything
is
in
the sack
there.
heavy and weighed
It
down?
is. It is. And we
hanging.
did. So distracting with your adjectives. So 2 things. One is we did
There
have.
are 2 things in my sack.
There are.
Actually, there's only 1 thing in my sack at these days. You know.
You know what? That you
I'm a
only
survivor.
need 1 thing in your sack. You only need 1 thing, ultimately. So 2 things. One is a suggestion that we had around. We've been toying with what to call your sack, and did have another suggestion to throw into the ring, and that was if we were to call this segment. Reaction. Look at me. Interrogatin' Brayton. Kind of rhymes.
That's
no
nice.
G on interrogating.
Still like Tim Sack.
Still Tim
Here's the
Sack.
thing. I feel like that makes it a question for me, and I think that we should, remind people that
It's everybody's
it's
sack?
for everybody. And
Okay.
as everyone knows, Rob and Carrie are certainly welcome to reach into my sack anytime.
Anytime.
I've made it very clear to both
Yeah.
of them. Together, individually,
awkward
I'm
ways,
very,
yes.
very fine with any sort
We
of
know you're
permutation.
flexible in that way.
You don't know how flexible I am.
Just keep setting them up.
It's not even sporting. I feel like it would have been embarrassing not to take that one, but she gave it to me. And it's like, oh, but this is
Anyway.
this is a child's pun. This isn't a real
This
pun.
is, I like to give you what I can. So
You don't. That's the problem.
Back to Tim Sack. We're going to stick probably right now with Tim Sack, but again, keep the names coming. So what we have in Tim Sack today, this is more of a comment than a question, but I wanted to express my appreciation to the three of you for your candor on last week's episode. Your very detailed description of your personal grooming habits.
Oh, that candor.
That one both made my day and equally destroyed it.
Yeah. I feel like we offered a service. There's at least one more person shaving their body now.
I definitely had a friend who threatened more or less to end our friendship over the fact that we talked about it. So you win some, you lose some.
So thank you for your feedback. We appreciate
This
that.
is someone who has chosen not to attach their name.
They have not.
Okay.
Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on the Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here are the things that were purchased. We had a Hallmark keepsake. 'Tis the season, right? 2017
Getting ahead of
snowball and
Christmas.
tuxedo cookies.
Christmas shopping.
Ornament.
Yeah. Getting ahead.
Yeah. Are we getting any new ornaments? I feel our tree is full.
Our tree is full, yeah.
Yeah, mine too. Like every year I buy a couple new ones, and I have just a little 3-foot artificial tree because I've been an apartment dweller for most of the last decade, and it's getting pretty heavy.
Okay.
Gonna have
laden
to
down.
upgrade.
Well, then you probably don't have room for yet another Hallmark Christmas ornament, the 2018 version of the same ornament. So I think that's how Hallmark keeps you coming back.
Oh,
is
yeah.
They tweak things
They
just
do.
a little bit
Oh, yeah.
and make you have to get
They've
the sets.
they've gotten me to buy some pretty useless permutations of Winnie the Pooh jumping out of a Jack in the Box or some shit.
We also had a bird feeder pole stabilizer with a 4-prong base. That's good for stability. You don't want
yeah.
your bird feeder tipping
you
over.
need your pole to have 4 prongs under it for sure.
Also had an OtterBox commuter case for the Google Pixel phone. Not familiar with the Google Pixel phones as much. I know the Samsung phone and Apple. Like those are the only two. I'm not like the Linux guy over here.
Yeah.
Going outside the box.
I'm still working on coming up with a good joke about OtterBox, which I feel it's right there.
Come back
and
to
I just
it.
haven't gotten to it yet.
Come back
and then
to it.
Criterion Collection on Blu-ray, Night of the Living Dead.
Nice. I just watched that for the first time.
Have I seen that?
I mean, the film I've seen. The Blu-ray I just watched about a week ago. Gorgeous fucking transfer
Oh, really?
of a movie that has looked like hell in a lot of versions.
Okay.
But this is the definitive version. For
All right, go out and grab that. Go do it through our Amazon site. Thank you so much for all your purchases. When we get back, our top 5 political movies. And welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 political movies.
Political.
Yeah, political. What?
Political. We don't usually talk politics.
We don't.
We don't, as a
Well,
general
it's,
rule.
It's because we all have wildly different politics, you know.
See, I always wonder that, but I mean, on the show we don't. But even
generally it's taboo to bring.
no, but
it's
even
gauche.
off air, we don't even talk politics.
I mean, we talked about
Moving to Canada that
how
one time.
much we all like Scott Walker and how
That's
we
true.
voted for him.
I think
That's
what
true.
people do in social settings, you try to feel each other out. You throw something out there and kind of see
Yeah.
how what
Yeah, but see,
people say,
Tim doesn't
and
take
then
the bait.
you get a sense, but you don't. It never actually comes out. but you
So
get a sense.
last week to Tim, I was like, "Oh, hey, so how you thinking about things? How they're going with the elections?" And Tim's like, "I might move to Canada," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
I think that's a pretty good summary of my politics. I think I might move to Canada
And then
because
I was
things
like-
are so great. They're
and then I was
making
like,
America great again. That's
I
why I'm
might
going
move.
to flee.
I said, Rob and I might move to Canada too, and then we're like, "All right, next topic." So we haven't really.
So we all like
dove in.
Canada better than
We all
Donald Trump.
do.
I feel like that is
That's
a fairly
safe.
majoritarian
That's-
position at this point.
I would agree. I
So
would agree.
despite different political leanings, perhaps.
Yeah.
How did you go about picking your political movies and ranking them?
So I know you guys felt like I was really solid last week on my top 5. I was feeling
so good. It was one of your best lists.
I actually feel less good this week because I was looking through all the lists that are out there of what they call political movies, and I hadn't seen any of those. And so I was like, ooh, I feel a little short on options. So I did what I did for the killer episode. And now I've gone into topical politics.
Okay.
I'm trying to grab at some favors here. So I've gone by like what I believe are some of the biggest problems with our politics today. And I've applied a movie to those things in politics.
Right. I think that's fun.
Does that work?
I think that'll work.
Because otherwise I don't have any.
Okay.
Well, I think what I like about political movies as a topic is that political has, I'd say, at least 3 meanings. One is it can be about the business of like governance, like the sort of sausage making of politics. One is it can be about like the people who do politics and like what does that mean? Like if we say someone's a good politician, what are we saying about that person? And then the very unrelated meaning is it can be about political issues. Right. So it can be like sort of what you're touching on, I think, like what are the political issues? How does a film address them? So I think you could easily say that a film like Brokeback Mountain is a political film.
Right.
Because it was intervening into culture in a way to like try and affect political change. Now for my list, I decided to really focus on sausage making. I was like, I want to do films about the business of politics as like the
focus on government, focus on president,
focus on how politics gets like pushed through the world.
Yep, I went exactly with Tim too, and but I like your idea, Kara. So for your movies, does the movie make you want to take action? Is that kind of what it is? It's like you said, it's something a political
I think so
item where you feel very passionate about, and it resonated with you. It's like I want to see some change.
I want or call something into the forefront. It even could be something that you know is there, but I think it's something that says something about the state of our politics.
Absolutely. I think that's a very legitimate way to
I'm
approach
excited.
it.
Okay, I don't feel so bad anymore.
So for me, it was more, I ended up doing a lot of mine were campaign driven.
Okay, sure.
I found myself, and then I was like, oh, is that right? Is that politics?
Campaigning
I
is politicking. I have a campaign film.
Okay, good. And what I was really looking for was lawmaking, like how, where I feel like I learned something about the political process from how laws are made, and I know that's only maybe one part of the branch of the government, but it was one that I wanted to walk away feeling like I learned something more about politics than I had going in. So yeah, that's how my list was assembled.
Cool.
Alrighty. So should I start with my number 1? All right.
So I just have one question.
Yeah.
How have you elected to conclude that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade speaks to the politics of 1989?
I tried. I excluded Nazis.
Okay.
Yeah, just in general.
They were a political party.
They were, but I have other non-U.S. inclusion here, so I didn't want to go too.
So that puts you better than your husband.
I know.
I'm pretty sure.
I know.
And it's funny. I thought, Kara, before this, we were going to have at least one overlap, but based on your criteria now, I don't think it's going to happen.
Sorry,
it's not
I haven't even seen Dave or Primary Colors. I was like, how have I not seen any of these movies? And I also wanted to. We did presidential movies at one point.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure I didn't include those.
That's fair
because it just felt
we
like
are not overlapping
cheating.
Then.
No. Okay.
We are not overlapping.
Alrighty. So the first one that I'm going to start off with is one that I have the least information on, and not that it's probably the least good of these movies, but this is the one that I'm calling out for.
Is it a film you've actually seen?
I've actually seen it.
Okay.
And if you guys could tell me some of the stats on it, that would also be appreciated. But I'm starting off with my the commingling of the issue that we have with politics and the police force.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So
Police Academy Mission in Moscow.
I know. Yeah.
It covers both bases.
It does.
And I've seen
it's about
that
diplomacy.
Yeah. I've seen that. I'm subbing out what I have. So, no, but what I did have was sort of the relationship between those things and the way that we're divided in thinking that the police are now either good or bad rather than trying to find a common ground somewhere in the middle. And that sort of how that's represented. And so I went with the Black Klansman.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, that is
Spike Lee?
Absolutely. No question that's
Spike Lee, known
movie.
for his political activism through...
Arguably,
Yes.
Spike Lee has only made 2 or 3 non-political films in his entire career.
All right. So this is very political. Yeah. And so this one for me, with Spike Lee's, the way that he does his stuff isn't going to jump to the top for me, but I liked the commentary. I liked what the message it was sending. I liked what it was saying. I liked that it was actually throwing something that is happening right now in front of us. I know there was some complaints about the little montage at the end.
I was one of the people complaining.
I know you were, but it's relevant. And it's relevant, and it's political, and it's an important message to get out there.
Yeah, and
it
is definitely speaking about like our exact specific today.
It's today.
Like today and tomorrow are like issues
yesterday.
for.
And my challenge is, I can't think of one now for this one, so it's a good one, is I'd like to unravel your list with a better movie for that particular thing, but I can't think of anything that...
Better film about that.
So for about what's going
police
on...
brutality,
Police brutality.
yeah.
Or,
I would actually say there was a better film about police brutality in African-American communities this summer, but I know you guys didn't see it.
Which one is that?
Blind Spotting.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
I
true.
want it.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Yeah.
I really want to poke at Carrie's list, but I can't think of... I feel like that's
No,
a solid
Black
choice.
Klansman's a rock-solid choice.
That's a solid choice.
I'm
I can't
already more impressed with your list this week.
I can't think of a
Remember,
movie...
I had a good one to start
that's
last
a good
week.
point.
It's heading down.
I can't think of a movie that you've seen that I think would be better suited for what you were trying to
I
achieve.
thought about Crash, but then I was like, no.
Okay, so you've made the right...
I made the right choice.
If your
right?
choice was between Crash or Black Klansman, you 100%
I'm just going to
made the right choice.
stop there. Back that out. Back that
All
out.
right.
I'm on a good foot.
Yep.
So what's your number 5?
So, as I said, mine are all about like the doing of politics.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 5 is one of these sort of quintessential movies about like peering inside the political establishment. A film that seems very quaint and cute now, but at the time it came out was like denounced by the U.S. government. That is 1939's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, directed by Frank Capra. It's the story about a very optimistic, naive, gung-ho sort of individual named Jefferson Smith, played by Jimmy Stewart, who goes to Washington. He is elected the junior senator from an unnamed state and an unnamed party, although if you read between the lines, he is probably a conservative Republican. Like, that seems to be the indication.
It was probably different back then, though.
It was different, but also the implications are that he's probably not an FDR Democrat. Basically.
Okay.
But so whatever he is, he goes to Washington. He believes he's going to make the world a better place, and immediately runs headlong into the reality that, to do anything in Washington, you need to be willing to play a game of corruption and influence and favor dealing. And Jefferson Smith finds this horrible and appalling, but he's one man, so he can't really do anything about it. And so the film watches as this decent human being tries to remain decent in the face of a system more finely tuned than any other in human history to make you indecent, basically. And then it ends with this very famous moment where, in a largely symbolic gesture...
Don't tell us.
You haven't?
Oh, I haven't seen it, but it's pretty well known. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I will say it has the greatest filibuster scene ever filmed. Back when the filibuster was like a thing that actually required
I know about the
investment.
filibuster. You know how? I'm just a bill, a lonely old bill. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We're talking about Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know about the filibusters. Now I know what happened. Thanks.
All right. So Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
One I
great
haven't
crowd
seen.
pleaser. Super
I have not
charming.
seen it, and it's a classic.
This was the only one I thought might overlap with either one of you.
No.
Yes, we
No.
all right. We
We're gonna have to make this
totally.
snappy.
I think you'd both like it.
Okay.
All right.
This is my number 5 is a movie Carrie has seen, and what better way to learn about politics than through a documentary?
I've got one on here.
Documentary.
Got one on
That's what
here.
I'm trying to say, but it's not coming out. I'm not going to try it again. I'm talking about 2005 Street Fight, which may feature our future presidential candidate.
You love this guy.
I did really like Cory. I love Cory Booker.
Yeah.
And you have an up and coming mayoral candidate in 2002, Cory Booker, just really idealistic, different, not conservative, but idealistic in the same
A
regard.
young Bernie Sanders.
Sure. I don't
Right?
know. I don't know.
I think
enough to
that
know.
might be slightly revealing about the fissures in our politics.
Well, that's
potentially.
But he's running for he's a city
For my
councilman.
knowledge, either one.
Very young, probably in his 20s. Harvard educated, but from a working class family. I think Harvard educated. You might have to correct me if I'm wrong there for those who've seen it. But he's trying to unseat longtime Mayor Sharp James, and I think I said Newark, New Jersey area. Super corrupt gentleman. At least that's the way the documentary seems to portray him. And he's got an uphill battle.
All right.
It's tough. He has Cory, he's living in the kind of the slum area, which has been disenfranchised by this mayor through wheeling and dealings and all the corruption. He's got the voice of the people. He just can't get them to go out there and want the change that they all say they want, but aren't willing to.
They're not willing to change.
When they actually go to the booth, they go with,
They're
like you
afraid,
said,
yeah.
they go with the name that they've seen.
That's the problem.
And it's it's just like mind-boggling to see it in a documentary style movie. It's just like, what are we all doing? Like, we know what we want. We're not helping ourselves get the change that we want. Here's a voice, someone who embodies everything you say that you want, and you're not going out or you're not voting for that person because you're taking the safe bet. And also shows how much the incumbent Sharp James is just a liar, and how he uses lies.
He's a car salesman.
Yeah, car salesman and bait and switch kind of things, and just makes all these false promises that nothing in his record ever show that he ever did that, and people buy it.
Yeah.
So nominated for 1 Oscar.
It was.
I really,
documentary.
I think it was. We caught it streaming on Netflix. I hope it still is.
I think it still is.
I think it is.
It's on my queue. Like, I wanted to see it because it was a Best Documentary nominee. I didn't actually realize that's what it was about. So I'm hoping to see this soon. I'll try to check it out before the primaries.
I'm 90% sure
2 years from now.
Cory Booker at some point will be a presidential candidate. He is now a senator from Jersey, I believe. Congressman.
He is one of the people who will be competing for the 2020 Democrats.
There you
You
go.
think so?
So yeah,
It's going to be a brutal, vicious primary, but he will be one of the names.
Get an early start. Look at this. Check this movie out, so you'll get a better sense of who this person is, what he represents. I like Mr. Cory Booker.
I need to read more to see if we agree, but yeah.
All right, number 4. You care.
All right, number 4 to me. This is where I touch on immigration, because as you all know, we actually
that's a little bit of an issue right now, isn't it?
It's a bit of one, so that's why I'm going to address it here today. And as you all know, we all are immigrants, and so this is representative of us. This is the story of us, and this is where I bring you District 9.
Well,
all right.
I like it.
All right.
Yeah.
Definitely political.
Unquestionably straightforward metaphor for apartheid.
I can't tell if this is like you're trying to bring me up.
No. This is absolutely a political metaphor.
Yeah.
No question.
So this is Neil Blomkamp. Do you know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
He made one good movie.
District 9?
District 9.
Okay.
We're all hoping for that next one, though.
I gave up. I saw Chappie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hope anymore.
So this is 1982, this race from another planet called the prawns, who actually are called that because they actually look like large shrimp.
Yeah, prawns is sort of indicated to be like a racial slur.
It is. Oh.
So you just used a racial slur.
It's the N-word equivalent is what I think that they're trying to go for.
So
with that.
called the P word.
Yep.
Okay. Comes to Earth, and after they've come, they're relegated to these slums and are living in this ghetto called District 9. And so this imperative comes down that they're bad all of a sudden, and that we forcibly need to evict the P's. These people. They're not really actually people.
They're
these aliens that are here.
Alien immigrants.
Yeah. You're right. And so they're met by an Earthborn friend who can help them, but does he need their help in the end?
Does he?
So
and he's let's not call him a friend. He's a racist anti-prawn cop.
Yeah, he is.
Sharlto Copley in the only good performance of his career.
But maybe he'll
find a lot of people did their only good work in this system.
Still hope.
I gave up hope on him a lot faster than I gave up hope on.
But he may find empathy because maybe he starts to understand their plight.
Walk a mile.
Walk a mile.
Yeah, that's the best way to learn.
That is the best way to say it. If you haven't seen this, it's worth seeing.
Very definitely set in South Africa, made by South African white filmmakers, but it's very much about like these sort of lingering scars of apartheid in South Africa.
Absolutely.
Inspired choices so far, Karen.
All right.
Tim, you're number
So you've hit 2, so you've already did better than last week.
I'm leaving. I'm out.
All right. So my number 4 is a fairly recent film by my standards, which means it was made during the lifetime of anyone in this room. It is literally the only film made in the lifetime of anyone in this room on my list. So this is 2009's In the Loop, directed by Armando Iannucci, who also made this past year's Death of Stalin, which would have been another good choice, but only one Iannucci film on the list. This is a movie about a group of British operatives from various intelligence agencies, diplomatic agencies, working with the United States over a terrible diplomatic faux pas in which the Brits briefly and accidentally indicated that they might not be entirely committed to the American war efforts in the Middle East. So it's very much a satire about the Blair government sort of serving as handmaiden to the George W. Bush government in the run-up to Iraq. Really, really brilliant, nasty-minded political satire about the kinds of people who do this business of presenting political messaging to the world, even when they personally believe the things that they're messaging about might be legitimately evil. Hilarious movie. This is those of you who are Doctor Who fans probably remember the recent run of Peter Capaldi, who is kind of came to prominence with the character he plays in this movie and also in the series. It's more or less based on the series. It's called The Thick of It. But the character's name is Malcolm Tucker, who is possibly the greatest swearer in the history of cinema.
I disagree. Oh, in cinema. Okay.
Well, thank you. I know where you were going with that.
Yeah, it was a compliment.
Thanks. But yeah, no, hilarious movie. Really, really smart about like the way that Britain tries to like hold its own political identity, despite in a lot of ways being sort of beholden to United States military.
Say it again.
In the Loop.
In the Loop.
2009.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately it's much like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, one that I've missed that I know a lot of people love. In the Loop.
It is. I will say that it is so damn funny. It might be the funniest movie of the century.
Interesting.
Honestly.
Okay, we'll have to catch that out and see that.
I'm going a little bit a different way. I went cast for my number 4. Let me read the cast to you here.
Okay.
I've got Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay.
Ryan Gosling.
All right.
Okay.
George Clooney.
Okay.
Paul Giamatti. Are you in just based on that?
No.
I'm in based on the cast.
Evan
yeah.
Rachel Wood, Marissa Tomei.
What? I have no idea what movie
Yeah, it's a
this
great
is.
cast.
Weekend at Bernie's. No.
This is a 2011 movie about an idealistic staffer played by Ryan Gosling who gets paired up with a new presidential candidate and is very excited about it. Ides of March.
Oh.
I actually like the artwork on the art for the movie itself. It's like a Time magazine cover of George Clooney on one half and Ryan Gosling's face on
Did
the
you
other.
see this, Tim?
I did.
Really?
You did.
A lot of people don't like this movie or think lukewarm thoughts about
Yeah.
it, but I also am an idealistic person, and I could see myself getting into a situation where I fall for the wrong candidate, and there's more to the candidate. Because I think ultimately it posits too is like, as idealistic as you are, do you ultimately just get corrupt by the system? And is that, like you were saying with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, is the only way to really get things done is if you partake in that corruption, and then once you start, you can go, how deep do you go, and how long do you retain your idealism?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie. There's a romantic element to it as well too, which kept me interested. Nominated for 1 Oscar.
Yeah, screenplay.
Yeah, and selected by audience members Tony Pritchard and Ralph Laney as their picks.
I will
as well.
say about this, it's based on a play called Farragut North that I saw about a year before the movie came out, and the play is terrific. The play works really, really well. I think the movie doesn't do a great job of containing all of the complexity of the play. So I'd say this, Rob, if you like the movie, I would read the play script. I think you'll really get a kick out of it.
The way it was shot, typically my criticism is of plays adapted into movies is like, it's probably I could see it that it's a play. Fences, I haven't seen Fences, but I've heard that kind of criticism.
It's
where it's like one set piece. The way this movie was made by George Clooney, you could say this whatever you want about his directorial style. I wouldn't have gathered that this was a play.
Sure.
So he turned it into a narrative.
The
film
play has some fairly short scenes, so that
Okay.
helps with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Care number
My number 3. Oh, yeah. My number 3. I was zoned out there. So
Thinking about George Clooney.
I was, and Ryan Gosling.
with a split face
Together.
I know. Is the love interest Marissa Tomei?
No, the love interest is Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
With who?
George Clooney.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't
Absolutely.
get that.
It's not
Okay.
really.
Oh,
But one could argue.
One could.
you can't tell me these things. I'm going to spread these rumors. So, all right. So my number 3 is the political intervention on human rights.
All right.
All right. So couldn't pick Milk again. That could have worked here, but I had it last week. So the one that I chose for this is a little bit of a twist, but it's a 2009 Outrage. Did you guys ever see this?
No.
2000
You didn't?
what movie?
2009
I've heard of
Outrage.
this. Oh, yes.
It's a documentary. Wonderful. You've seen this, haven't you, Rob?
It's not. I gotta.
I think we actually have a friend that worked on this movie, I think. Katie Dolan, didn't she do some of the
Outrage?
production something for
Maybe.
it?
Yeah,
so
tell us a little bit about the content of Outrage.
well, I will. So it's so funny. So it's written and directed by Kirby Dick. It stars a lot of politicians because it's a documentary. So it's this wonderful thing that highlights all of these politicians who are most aggressively lobbying for anti-gay legislation in the U.S. But then it's this major exposure of them as like these massive hypocrites because of their own sexual preferences that lean towards a similar gender that are captured. Like they're caught in the news or they're caught in.
It's about the trend of gay Republican homophobes.
It is, and it's so fabulous because they're like, you see, it clips to all these amazing things where they're like, oh, it's bad because God told me in the Bible something, and then it clips over and it's like,
the
truck
hypocrisy.
stop, or like something, or they're purchasing a prostitute, or they're whatever, like all these people that are outed in the news, and it's
I believe
just
one hires a prostitute.
What's that?
I believe you hire a prostitute.
What did I say? Rent?
Purchase.
Oh, both.
Rent.
Lease.
No.
I like
lease
lease
for the hour.
Lease to buy.
Lease. Yeah. So it's just good, and you just love to hate these people so much. Like it's fun to just see them exposed. You saw this too, I think, Rob?
Possibly, yeah. It's ringing some bells. Hypocrisy is my least.
It is for me too, but then when you see like this
Mine is being a
75-year-old
redhead.
white man like turning and on camera like with in a police car, you're like, I feel somehow vindicated by that.
sure.
So
Yeah. I will say I haven't seen this. I find Kirby Dick. I disapprove morally of Kirby Dick as a filmmaker.
I don't know much about Kirby Dick.
I find
but
his approach to documentary filmmaking journalistically inappropriate.
it could be. It
I
could be.
despised the movie about the ratings board that he made. So
I didn't see
Oh,
that
did
one.
he do the MPAA?
he did. This film is not yet rated.
Oh,
he also did.
interesting.
I think he did that movie, The Hunting Ground, a couple years ago.
Oh, sure.
Check out Outraged.
You're
not going
I'm
to?
Not, I don't like.
I know.
I find Kirby Dick to be remarkably.
If you need
unpleasant as a
some levity
personality.
for the day and make you feel better about politics, Outrage.
All right.
That was my number 3.
All right.
So I like that we all have documentaries on our lists because my number 3 is a documentary. This is a documentary about campaigns. It is, I think, easily the best film about the campaign process I've ever personally seen. This is the 1960 film Primary, which is made by Robert Drew, who was a very important early filmmaker in the cinema verite, or the direct cinema rather, not cinema verite movement in the 1960s. And it is a film following the Democratic presidential hopefuls John F. Kennedy and Hubert Humphrey
Okay.
during the primary in the great state of Wisconsin.
Oh,
In
really?
1960. Yeah, I thought it was in Minnesota, and then when I pulled up the details, I was like, holy crap, it's Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
So it works out perfectly. So this is a short little movie. It's about an hour long. They had really in-depth access to both the Kennedy and Humphrey campaigns, and it's basically just watching, like, what the hell happens? Like, who buys the coffee? Who, like, rents the hall? What happens if the candidate is late? What happens if the candidate's tired? Like, really great access with both of these campaigns and the candidates involved. Early example of direct cinema, which is the documentary form that's basically just like follow the world with a camera and then put it together later, which is, I think, a sort of played out documentary form, but at this point, 1960, it was really, really fresh, really new, and I think Robert Drew did a terrific, terrific job just capturing like the energy of being in this very, very heightened situation. So I think it's an absolute masterpiece. It's super short, so it's easy to watch. And for just another few weeks, I'm fairly confident this movie is streaming on Filmstruck. The Criterion.
I thought that Filmstruck went down.
It hasn't gone down yet. It's going down on the 29th.
Okay.
That's why I say for the next few weeks.
Okay.
So catch this one ASAP.
This one sounds so interesting because you wonder, when they present themselves to a national audience, all the work that goes into that presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Gotta be
just the prep.
exhausted.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. I want to know where they're going to the bathroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do they eat?
it's-
Are they doing Gatorade?
Chipotle.
Are they sniffing some Coke?
Yep, there's
Like, what's
there's
going on?
definitely John F. Kennedy sniffing Coke off of a Chipotle burrito.
Oh, I was like,
But I actually own this on Blu-ray, so if you guys want to borrow from me,
Yeah.
because I know you don't have Filmstruck.
Well, mine is. I would actually really like to check this one out. My next one, my number 3 has Primary in the title, but it finishes it off with colors.
Yep.
Little primary colors. And I'm noticing
Another
a theme.
campaign movie.
I'm noticing another campaign movie, and also another one where it's an idealistic
Sure.
candidate. And I think I'm a sucker for this because
you are.
I think you start off very idealistic, and then reality kind of sets in. And this is very much the case with this Mike Nichols directed film. Mike Nichols, of course, who brought us another political movie, Charlie Wilson's War, which I thought about. Closer, The Graduate, probably best known for The Graduate. This one stars John Travolta and Emma Thompson, who are basically the Clintons.
Basically.
And Kathy Bates, another idealistic person that's hired to kind of help be the campaign manager and make sure that
wait, who plays Hillary?
Emma Thompson.
Emma
With
Thompson,
a
okay.
short Hillary haircut, Hillary Clinton haircut.
Okay.
There's no denying that it was based on
it's
these.
based off of an anonymous Romana clef from a couple years prior to that was like a huge deal. I forget who the author was finally revealed to be. Joel Klein, I think, but I
Okay.
could probably look that up. But yeah,
Also-
which was very clearly about the Clintons as well.
Also has Billy Bob Thornton and Maura Tierney, who we mentioned in
Oh, that's right.
what is it, Beautiful Boy, and Adrian Lester, who plays the idealist, who's kind of really the audience surrogate in this particular movie. But it follows John Travolta, who's doing Bill Clinton basically on the campaign as a presidential candidate, and perfect candidate, very idealistic, speaks well, but has a little problem with his partner in crime, his little vice in his
What's his little vice?
The little vice in his pants. His vice president, the other vice.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good pun on vice.
It's less weird when
like
Tim
that.
does it. It's less weird. When you do it, it's weird.
So again, do you, much like I guess Bill Clinton, do you accept him for those shortcomings when everything else, from what we see,
is it a shortcoming, Rob?
I don't know. That's good. That's a good pun as well. Nominated for 2 Oscars. I just liked that it followed the political process. It does campaigning, I think, also very well in a narrative form. And yeah, I really enjoyed watching this movie.
You know who didn't do that? Was Obama. Like, did he have anything on his track record that ever went wrong?
No.
Not one thing.
He knew from a very early point in his career that he wanted to make the presidential run, so he did a lot of. He kept his nose clean, like very.
I feel like that's
very
you
clean.
need to know at the beginning. No
Yeah,
dick pics, no wiener.
Yeah, no wieners. That's another
Gary Hart,
documentary.
who is actually the subject of a movie opening this election day, the frontrunner. I think savvy people, and Obama is very, very savvy indeed, understand that like it will come back. And I think he's sort of the first politician we had who really like exploited that throughout his entire
life. There's nothing on that guy.
Nothing on that guy.
Squeaky. So anyway,
except that he was born in Kenya, of course.
Obviously,
but
you
can't control.
Doesn't
that.
have any papers, obviously. So So good pick, Rob. Good pick. I think you maybe have had that for your presidential one too, possibly. So this next one brings me to a little bit around the political way in which the government sort of creates a social class system and creates sort of a world where we perpetually have the haves and the have-nots, especially in the United States. I know it's everywhere, but...
Snowpiercer.
Why do you know that?
Am I right?
Yes.
Jesus.
Nice.
I haven't even gotten to the part about climate change yet. What?
Sweet. I know you so well.
Oh, man.
When you say class systems, then I knew.
I should have led with climate change.
Is it the only film you've seen about class structures?
No, climate change, but like with climate change too.
I mean, it might be the only film
yeah.
I've seen with class structures and climate change.
Combined up. I'm trying for extra points here at the top. But
I guess Elysium is kind of that, but that's a shitty movie. That's another Neil Blomkamp.
But you basically have a president on a train, right?
No, the president is on the train. He's just the de facto.
The entirety of humanity is on the train.
Right.
What's
That's
left
what I'm
of
saying. But
humanity
you have there's a class system, and I've talked about this movie a couple times before. I'll never do it again, maybe. But on the class system of the train, and like the people at the back, it's progressively poorer and worse off towards the back. And at the very front, the conductor of the train is this leader of, and he lives in perfection and has all these wonderful things. And so, but they're relegated to this train because the outside has become so frigidly cold that you cannot be outside this train, otherwise you'll die.
You'll die of exposure immediately.
So,
but it also wrestles with the complexity of the people in the front of the train are viewed as evil, particularly the one who's pulling all the strings at the very front of the train.
Yeah.
But he says, "Do you need the people? Does this not work without the people in the back?" You know what I mean? Like, and it's something to wrestle with. I disagree. I think there's ways around having to create that, but this is all a created environment, and the people at the very back, what do you do when you have nothing? And so you're exposed to that in this too, and it's like, you're hungry, you need food, you need this, that. Ugh. There's some scenes in there that are rough, but I love Snowpiercer, and I've talked about it before. You should see it if you've missed it.
Phenomenal movie. I love this movie. It is not in any way subtle about its social commentary. It's like
political?
Forthright. Oh, totally. This is an aggressively anti-capitalist film. And one of the main villains, played by Tilda Swinton, is a direct parody of Ayn Rand. This is a movie that is not hiding its left-wing politics an iota.
Yeah.
Which I admire.
And it's good.
Yeah.
So that's my number 2.
I got another film that's not hiding its left-wing politics an iota. This is a film so we all see movies that are sort of based on real politics that sort of like downplay that. Like Primary Colors is about the Clintons, but it sort of hides it. This is a film that says right out front, signed by the screenwriters and director, any resemblance to actual events, to persons living or dead, is not the result of chance. It is deliberate. This is 1969's Z, made by the Greek filmmaker Costa Gavras. It is a satire / many things. It's about the assassination of a prominent left-wing politician who is based on the real Greek politician Grigoris Lambrakis, who was assassinated in 1963. And the film is basically about the impossibility of left-wing change when you are dealing with the fact that Greece at this time was controlled by a right-wing military dictatorship, basically. So it's this like full-on fuck you, right-wing government, you're evil, you kill people, and we are going to win because right is on our side, made underneath the strictures of like a dictatorship. I think it was actually made mostly in France because it had to be made outside of Greece. But it's this incredibly exciting, angry story about just like the shitty things that governments will do to sort of hang on to power when it looks like the people might be pushing someone who cares more about like the little guy than entrenched power systems. Really, really phenomenal film. One of the great political thrillers ever made. Stars Jean-Louis Trintignant, Yves Montand as like the character who gets assassinated. Really, really exciting, really hopeless. I mean, this is a movie about like, well, we lost, so what happens next? And the answer is we'll figure that out later. But totally worth it. Like it's the movie that before I saw it, I thought was like this really sort of intellectual exercise, and it's not. It's visceral. It's all about like the sort of day-to-day tension of living when you know that the government might want you dead any second for the things that you're trying to do.
Wow.
Great film.
We haven't had a good
that's intense, man.
We haven't had a good assassination in the U.S. in a while.
Okay.
Okay.
I really don't know what to say to that.
I
comment.
You're supportive. Don't look at me like I'm weird.
I think we had
You'd
best
be
move
okay.
on to your number
You'd
2,
be
Rob,
okay with
before
it.
the CIA comes knocking on our door.
Something a little bit more lighthearted. This is we talked about Schoolhouse Rock and learning how a bill gets made.
Yeah.
I got to see it firsthand in this comedy, The Distinguished Gentleman, starring Eddie Murphy. Really poorly rated. All
Yeah.
my movies have been above 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, except this one, which comes in at a raging 13%.
Oh my! I thought it was better regarded
People
than
love
that.
it.
I thought it would have like been in the 40s.
I don't quite get the hate. I enjoyed this movie. We talked about voting based on a name. This is about a con man played by Eddie Murphy, who just happens to have the same last name, Johnson, as the former incumbent who had
You said
passed away.
Johnson.
I did say Johnson. Thomas Jefferson Johnson is his real name. Yep. And he gets himself as a write-in on the ticket. And that's really just the start of the movie. As the incumbent has passed away with the same last name and wins. He goes campaigning and wins. That's like the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then now he's the junior congressman. I don't know all these terms. Junior senator from whatever, Florida, I think is where he was from.
Junior senator is a very complex and arcane term that is not used regularly in news media. I can understand why you wouldn't know it.
There you go. And he goes in, he has to kind of learn the ropes. And he finds, I think through the process, is what I enjoyed about this movie, is that he's not the only one who's running a con. It's everybody in the political system. And he starts developing a little bit of a heart and using his con skills for right reasons. Yep. And that's why I love this movie. I enjoyed laughing at this movie. The Distinguished Gentleman.
I saw this movie many years. It's got to be a quarter of a century at this point since I saw that movie last.
Yeah, it's a lot of...
I think I liked it, but I was also 10.
It's a lot of...
so was Rob.
That's a good point.
Eddie Murphy battling against the bad guys, which are old white men with jowls, and it's fun.
They still are, man.
Nothing ever
Still
changes.
got the jowls.
So that was my number 2.
All right, I'll bring it to my number 1 and close things out with the refugee crisis / political corruption with a little taste of racism. Okay.
All right. So
Any
corruption, racism, and the refugee
crisis. Nothing.
Nothing this time.
Nothing this time. And again, I'm expanding my horizons to other countries like Rwanda.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure.
Number 1, I bring you Hotel Rwanda.
Yeah.
Yep.
I brought this movie to you, right?
You did.
Yeah.
And so
Is that
here's
a date movie for you guys?
Yeah, it probably was. And here's
Did you sit and cuddle and watch Hotel Rwanda?
I probably just wept most of the time. So
I imagine that happens every time you cuddle with Rob.
It's actually maybe it does. So
every time we cuddle, it lasts 5 minutes, and then Kira's like, "I'm hot. Get away from me." That was last night.
You're exaggerating. I know. I just don't think I like to be touched anymore unless I like beckon it. Unless I beckon it. I like so. Anyway, back to Hotel Rwanda. But when we did see this, I will say, as much as you guys think that I'm unaware of a lot of things in film, like I'm just not great with like when I first met Rob, I didn't see a lot of cinema, really didn't have a lot of historical context and all these things. Rob doesn't even tell me what this movie's about. I'm like, oh, hopefully it's a nice travel movie. And so I didn't
So
have...
you're expecting like the best exotic marigold hotel, but set in Rwanda.
Set in Rwanda, maybe. I don't know. And so this was a shocker. Like, this was really bad. So this is set in 1994 when a civil war breaks out in Rwanda. It's a historical thing between the Hutus and the Tutsis. And the whole country's politically corrupt, and they have set different class systems to both sides. So one is like a more upper class side, but when the lower class side revolts and begins, there's a mass genocide that begins. This is history.
But it's a falsely created system of even between the two. They are the same.
They're the same people.
They're the same race, but then
They've
we're
divided
divided up. My understanding historically
by
was
their government.
It's a fairly obscure point of ethnic difference that is being exploited
it's
here.
the lighter colored.
Their nose, I thought, was like a
nose and
different
lighter
shape.
colored
Yeah.
than you were the
stupid.
Hutu, and then the other ones were the Tutsis, and like it's crazy when you divide people up based on things like that, where the hatred just kind of
brews over
just
time.
becomes, you use it
and came very suddenly.
Yeah.
Like these were people who had lived together as perfectly uncontroversial neighbors for many, many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the government doesn't stop it. So over the course of 3 months, 1 million Tutsis perished in this mass genocide. Horrifying. And so the story then becomes around this hotel owner played by Don Cheadle, who owns a hotel, and he basically brings in refugees and tries to hide them to stop them from being slaughtered, basically.
I believe it's a part of
right?
his motivation. I think he would probably, I don't know anything about the guy, but
He's married to
he's
a-
married to the
He's a Hutu.
yeah.
And he's married
Right.
to a Tutsi.
Right. Just a frustrating movie.
Frustrating.
Yeah,
and upsetting.
we're talking about outrage, like a movie that makes you want to do something about.
Yeah.
And this is frustrating for me on a lot of accounts. I think we were all in around middle school when this happened. I feel like I had no idea, no sense that
It wasn't shared in the media, and then why?
Famously, the Western media did a terrible job. Western governments just did not in any way address this. It's like one of the great black marks of like international neoliberalism in the last 30 years is that it let this happen.
It's horrifying.
And you see the
Horrifying.
UN, you see the UN come in and not do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're there. They're just sitting as observers.
Sitting and waiting, yeah.
And letting this whole thing play out. So
I can
really
feel my heart
frustrating.
rating.
I know.
My heart's racing.
There is, I just want to spit this out real fast. It's very hard to get your hands on this, I will say that. But there is a filmmaker named Anne Aghion who has made her career out of sort of exploring the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide. And in 2009, which was her last film, she released this amazing documentary called My Neighbor, My Killer, which is about the restorative justice that grew up after the genocide, where like the families of like the slaughtered people were sort of given the authority to pass judgment over the people who'd done the slaughtering, and like the decision to approach this as a chance to heal and regroup and rebuild rather than to just be punitive. Amazing film. It's really hard to scrounge up a copy in the States, unfortunately. My Neighbor, My Killer, 2009.
Neighbor, My Killer.
I'll see if I can find
Hotel
a copy
Rwanda.
for you guys.
Were they
Both.
magnanimous? Is that the right use of the word?
I'd say that is the right word, yes.
Okay. And were they?
I
Or
would
did
say
they
so.
choose
I think-
off with their heads?
Well, I mean, it's about restorative justice. Like, it's very clear at the beginning, like, that's what's going to happen, and, like, why does that happen? How does it
Interesting.
play out?
Because
Great
I know
film.
there's been another documentary. I think it's The Act of Killing and its sister companion.
Yeah,
very
those are
similar.
about, those are different movies. They're,
Okay.
they're weirder movies. Those are
Okay.
about Indonesia as well.
Indonesia.
So,
Okay.
So that's my number
A
one.
lot of genocides around there.
Ending
Yes.
on a sad note,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it's very political.
I'm going to end on a super happy note,
Okay.
which is a comedy about how we're all going to die in nuclear war.
I believe it.
I believe it too.
research
We've-
bomb shelters
we've
almost
come-
every other
come
day.
back around
Yeah.
to
What's that clock?
the Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday clock.
It's a coming.
It's close. I think it's a minute away.
It's not very far. But yeah, so this is 1964's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, Stanley Kubrick's satire about how a insane general he does it on purpose, sets off a bombing raid against the Soviet Union that, if successful, is going to result in the explosion of a doomsday device that's going to kill all of human civilization. And the political element comes in that much of the film is dedicated to the President of the United States, played by Peter Sellers, his advisors, and the Russian diplomat, played by Peter Bull, Russian ambassador, basically try to find a political solution to this incredibly terrible problem that everyone wants to solve because it's going to kill all of them. Like, no one will live. And yet, even in the face of that, the sort of resting level of politics is so hopelessly dysfunctional and fucked up that they can't make anything happen. And so it's basically just watching how as we are hurtling towards devastation, we are being governed by absolute incompetent fools. And the film's perspective on this is, well, might as well laugh. And I think that sums up my politics pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And you laughed in this?
Oh, I laughed very well.
It's a movie that I'm sad that I've missed.
You haven't seen Dr. Strangelove, and you haven't seen Dr. Strangelove? Oh.
Do you have that one too?
Patreons, come on.
Of course I do.
Of course you do.
It's Dr. Strangelove. Yeah. It's a Kubrick film. I love this movie. This is one of the masterpieces of all time.
This was all over the site and on Facebook, and people were writing in with this one.
So for those who are curious, it is 2 minutes till midnight.
Okay,
on
great.
The doomsday clock.
So they set it back.
It's never been this far along since since 1953 it appears, which was I want to say Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't know my dates.
Cuban Missile Crisis was 62. We didn't know how close that was until many years later.
So it is the closest to midnight, from what I'm reading right here, as it's ever been to a doomsday scenario.
All right.
So
thanks, Rob, for sharing. Thanks.
Let's laugh.
Yeah.
Let's just laugh about it. We can laugh at my movie. It's lighthearted. It's the one that would have been on Carrie's list had she not excluded presidential movies. Because it is also one that deals with a bill and also some of the compromises that you have to make potentially as you're trying to run for re-election. I'm talking about The American President from 1995.
Oh, yeah.
It's a political movie.
Love story.
Wrapped in a love story, wrapped in a campaigning movie. It is
more about the love story, though.
First-term president going for his second term and falls in love. And that's probably, that's frowned upon. He's a widower. And all of the press of, maybe falling in love with is she a lobbyist? Yeah.
Yep.
What would that look like? It's causing controversy in his ability to get reelected. There's a bill that she really wants that he's supportive of, but because of that conflict of interest, he starts to maybe having to shy away from that.
Most political movie?
Impacts the love It's my most enjoyable.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it's most political. It's combination ranking of needed to be political then.
And quality.
I just really love this movie. Critics love it. 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Why are you bashing this?
Because I feel this movie. Because after this list and all the affirmation I got, I feel confident in bashing your list.
Here's sort of I don't want to call it my problem with The American President because I think it's a solid, fun, good movie. Not great, but solid, fun, and good. It was written by Aaron Sorkin.
That's right.
And it is so clearly the test run for The West Wing, which is just a better version of the same thing.
I wish I would have gotten.
And so after The West Wing,
show.
I know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. After The West Wing, I don't like this as much because it feels like a shallower version of The West Wing.
Understood. But you've got Michael Douglas as president. You've got Sheen as
Martin Sheen, right?
Martin Sheen. Thank you. I was going to say Michael Sheen. Different person as kind of campaign chief of staff. Chief of staff. Nominated for one Oscar. I'm assuming screenplay.
I think it was screenplay.
I don't know what it was, but it's kind of Aaron Sorkin's. I don't want to say his start, but one of his first big.
This was
big
post
movies.
A Few Good Men, which was very much his big coming out.
Also, Rob Reiner directed both movies, Few Good Men and this. So good combo when the two of those Sorkin and Reiner get together as director.
Actually, kind of weak. Go on.
Hurt my feelings, Care. Well, every week
it's a really good film from the mid to late 90s about doing politics is Wag the Dog.
Yes.
You should have put Wag the Dog as your number one.
I have seen Wag the Dog, and I thought about putting Wag the Dog on there too, but actually big audience favorite. Speaking of the audience, every week we ask you to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. Based on the results, here are your top 5 picks. Tied for number 5, Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog.
And with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Okay, yeah. Wag the Dog didn't make my list in large part because I already had 2 satires, and I feel like that would have been top heavy.
Sure.
And also, I don't think it's as good as Mr.
You never want to over satire.
The tied for number 4, The Manchurian Candidate.
Thought about it. Thought about it for a good long time.
This is the Frank Sinatra version, of course.
I fundamentally, the things I love about it are not necessarily the things that are political, but it is.
Number 4, about the election process that I find amusing is Election, the movie Election, also tied for number 4.
Sure.
Yeah, and I thought about that one as well. Also thought about this number 3, Lincoln. I thought it does a really good job going into, excuse me?
Abe.
Oh yeah, Abe, yes.
Abe.
A little bit too much into politics because very sleepy movie for me, very long
I find this movie exhilarating.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I think this movie's so much fun.
It was kind of like Beautiful Boy.
I can't tell if you're serious.
I'm serious.
Exhilarating.
It's a movie in which Abraham Lincoln tells a shit joke. How do you fall asleep during that?
It was tough to get. Did you get through this movie?
No, I fell asleep.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
At number 2, Standing Alone. At number 2, All the President's Men.
Good
I
one.
cut that off on my list at the last minute because it's adjacent to politics, but I think it's not close enough to me.
Agree. And at number 1, no surprise here for me, is Dr. Strangelove.
All right.
And then our winner this week was I Believe You Call It Hate. And I didn't jot down your picks. I apologize for that. I'll get them out in the show notes.
The user's...
User's name on the site is I Believe You Call It, ellipsis, hate.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure what the movie reference, anybody? I don't
Maybe
know.
let us know
It
on the
feels like
site.
it's a movie quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I Believe You Call It Hate. Shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free Amazon movie rental. If you want to win a free Amazon movie rental like I Believe You Call It Hate, be on the lookout for a spoiler or top 5 movie posts on Facebook or Twitter to share your favorite picks.
I think we're going to have to start going with I Believe. It's just
I Believe.
it's easier.
Yeah, it is.
It's fun to see him try and spit it out, though.
Sure.
I thought I nailed it.
No, you did pretty well.
did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Go out to our Facebook page and like it. Check us out on Twitter. Head out to alternateending.com where you'll find all of our movie reviews, podcasts, blog posts, videos, and more. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel where you'll find all of our YouTube videos as well too that we're putting out. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google, and don't forget about Patreon. With Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Griswold, and all the world
Grindelwald,
building.
sir.
Grindelwald, excuse me.
Griswold's almost a real word.
Well, it is. It's the one I was actually thinking about.
It's the fifth vacation
That's right.
movie.
Fifth National Lampoon.
Yeah.
Fifth National
I would
Lampoon.
be way more excited about a National Lampoon set in a fantasy
But they do a great
universe.
job with the world building.
They
So
do.
we're thinking about the top 5 movies that you wished you lived in. We will catch you then.